What an Excellent Day for a Podcast is not for the weak of heart. It contains explicit language, roller coaster-like tangents, and the occasional breakout into song. All opinions expressed are just that, opinions, and belong solely to those who speak them. Listener discretion is advised. Spoilers ahead.
Excellent day for an August.
You'd like that?
Are you fucking nuts?
Get that damn screwdriver out of my hand!
You listen, you little bitch. You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
I want you to pray to your God. I want you to pray that he comes and saves you.
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Welcome to another episode of What an Excellent Day for a Podcast. And for those of you who were waiting for last week's drop, I'm going to take full responsibility for that one. Anyone who knows me personally, or if you're just good at putting two and two together, typically the last couple years, late October through mid-January is kind of a shit show for me personally. And last week, I was just a little more fucked up than usual. But trying to keep this ship sailing while the rest of the nerds are taking care of what they need to. So, here we go again. And as a reminder, for those of you who haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe to wherever you listen to us and on our YouTube channel, so you're sure to catch every episode hot off the presses. And also, wherever you're listening to us right now, be sure to give us a rating and review, because what better way to spread your love for the EdFab nerds and letting the world know why they should be listening to us. But obviously, you've been following us this long, it's going to be 5 stars, right? So with all that out of the way, let's get on with the episode. Tonight, I'm going to be discussing a movie, actually 2 movies, sorta, that I've been wanting to get into for quite some time now. And despite the director specifically saying this is not a horror movie, if you've seen this, whether you like it or not, you can't deny that the horror community at least respects this one. And I'm talking about the 1997 Funny Games and its 2007 remake, both written and directed by Michael Haneke, or at least that's the pronunciation I hear on the internet. So let's go with that. Now, if you have not yet seen this movie, I highly recommend you do. And like we say in the beginning of every episode, this will have the shit spoiled out of it. So if you have any interest in seeing what all the hubbub is about, pause this right now, go and watch it. As of now, January of 2026, it is streaming on HBO Max. So go check it out and then come back and continue this episode. So like I said, Haneke made this film not with the intention of it being a horror film, but more as a fuck you to modern media for desensitizing the masses to violence and in some ways encouraging it. And if you go into this movie with that knowledge, there's no denying that he didn't completely succeed with his mission. Now, getting right into it, this movie abruptly opens into an overhead shot of a family consisting of the mother Anna, the father George, and their son Georgie, as they drive down this wooded, windy road heading towards their lake house. It does kind of establish early on, they don't flat out say it, but you could tell they're definitely at the bare minimum upper middle class, but they seem like a very well-off family. And off the back of their truck, they have their sailboat in tow, because what's the point of having a lake house if you don't have some kind of boat to enjoy it with? So this shot goes on for about 3 minutes, and as they're driving, you hear Anna and George going back and forth. I think they're playing some kind of guessing game. As they're going back and forth, putting on different CDs. Yes, CDs. Again, this was 97. and they're just playing a bunch of classical music. Not judging, that's just what they were doing. Sorry if my tone came off a little snubbish. And then we cut to inside the car where you get their first glimpse of them, and within seconds after showing inside the car, hard title card comes in, along with a bit of a tonal shift in music, where we get the song Bonehead from Naked City. And it kind of plays to a little foreshadowing as to how drastic of a change their lives are going to have. So we get the opening title sequence, and you know what? I think this might be in my I'll be nice and say top 10 title cards in a movie. Actually, I think I have a lot of favorites in this movie, and for some reason, it always slips my mind whenever we go into lists. But the opening credits wrap up, and you see them pull up to what appears to be their neighbor's house, which are Fred and Eva, and they roll the window down and they yell out to them because these are huge houses, huge properties. And they see them standing out there, and it looks like they have two guests there, but they yell out to confirm for tea time, well, tea off time, tomorrow morning. And Fred manages to yell back, yeah, we're still good. So the family gets back on their journey there, and already feeling like something was a little off, but they were far enough apart, who knows, maybe they didn't fully register who was yelling out to them, and it was just all kind of sinking in. But either way, they noticed something was a little off. Oh, and right before they pull away, they were saying how they could use a little help getting their boat into the water, getting it set up. So if Fred could stop by in about 20 minutes to help him out. And to which they said, of course, no problem. And I almost forgot to mention, along with the family, they have their dog, Rolfie. And this comes into play right away, where we fast forward to 20 minutes later. Here comes Fred with one of their guests walking up, which we are introduced as Paul, to come help out with the boat. And Rolfie is having none of it. Now, we don't quite know yet if maybe he's just not a people person or he's already guessing something ain't right with at least one of these two people. So they come help and set up, and you see George and Georgie kind of setting up the boat after it's in the water. And we cut back to Anna, who's in the kitchen. She's preparing food. You see her washing off some veggies and things like that. And then Georgie comes walking in. He's like, hey, we need a super sharp knife. So Anna gets it for him and says, hey, tell your father, make sure when you guys are done with this, bring it back. Sure, Ma. Absolutely. So he walks out, and then a minute later, Georgie comes walking back in. He's like, Mom, someone's here. So Mom walks over to the door, and you see this blonde gentleman there. He looks a little timid, a little not comfortable around new people. We, a little later, find out that this is Peter. So he comes in all shy, and he's like, sorry to bother you, miss, but Eva is making food, and she realized she needs a couple eggs. So is there any chance you have some to give to her? Sure, no problem. So Anna goes over to grab the eggs, and she's like, oh, would you like me to wrap these up, put them in a container or something? And he goes, no, I got it. And you could tell right away. I mean, obviously, both Peter and Paul have got to be legit guests of Fred and Eva because they're wearing their I don't know. I don't know rich people's sports, so. But they have a very, they're ready to go play tennis and or golf. All nice, clean, white clothes, nice button-up shirt, some white shorts. They got the white gloves on. So obviously, they're one of us. So Anna asks Peter if he would like something like that. He goes, no, I got it. I could just carry him out. So he takes the eggs. Thank you very much, miss. And he turns around, he goes to walk over to the door, and he's like, oh, damn. And he goes to check what's happening. He already fucked up and dropped the eggs right there by the front door. So he's like, I'm so sorry, miss. Anna's like, no problem. She gets some rags. She goes, cleans up the mess. And after that, and the whole time, Peter's just kind of standing there, awkwardly looking at her, almost as if he wants to say something, but I don't know. So the two of them are now standing in the kitchen, having almost a stare down. And Anna's like, okay, so, now what? And Peter's like, well, I mean, I still need the eggs, right? And she's like, well, yeah, but you kind of fucked up the ones I gave you. And he's like, well, if I recall, you had a dozen eggs there, so you could obviously spare 4 more. So now Anna's already, you could tell she's getting frustrated by this. And she's like, all right, fine. Do you want me to wrap these up? Oh, well, I don't know. It's up to you. And it's already getting really fucking weird. So Anna goes, takes the eggs. She starts wrapping them up in a newspaper or something like that. In the meantime, Peter's getting uncomfortably close to her. I mean, he's so socially awkward. Obviously he doesn't know physical boundaries, respecting people's personal space. So he's kind of standing right over her, like they're right by the kitchen sink. And then all of a sudden, oh no! And he bumps their phone and knocks it into the sink that she was rinsing her greens out in. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And yeah, you could tell she's already getting like really fucking pissed now about it. She takes the phone out, she tries shaking it off, try to dry it out. And he's like excessively apologizing. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm such a klutz. And so she's just like, here, fine, take the eggs and just go. Now, one thing you get a lot of in this movie, some a little more extreme than others, is you get a lot of long shots in this. And I feel like this is something that normally, this would be the part where I would be discussing a movie or getting ready to rate it and explain like, overall the runtime was good, but they could have trimmed out a little here, a little there. This is definitely one of those exceptions to it where there's a lot of prolonged shots in here. Sometimes it's just a minute or two, and we'll get into it when the time comes, but there's a really long one shot where really nothing happens, but it works. In the context of the movie, it adds to the tension, it adds to the creepiness, and again, it just works in this case. So Peter walks out with his second batch of eggs, and we're just lingering on Anna, in a sense, almost recovering from that interaction. She's just trying to wind down a little bit, pissed off that, I got to figure out how to dry the phone out. And finally, when she gets a moment, she grabs a cigarette and she lights it up. And just as she's getting ready to enjoy it, here comes another knock at the door. So she walks over. Now we have Peter and Paul hanging out. And I guess going back in the meantime, while she's trying to calm down, you do hear Rolfie outside barking some more. But again, at this point, you figure, okay, the dog's just hyperactive and it barks a lot. But when she comes to the door and sees those two, then you realize, okay, yeah, the dog's barking at strangers again. Now, in the case of Paul, he definitely comes off more aggressive, like not necessarily mean-spirited aggressive, but almost as if he has more of a lack of self-awareness. Like very much like, oh, I'm imposing? Like I have no idea. Like my intention is not to impose. And why would you think such a thing? I'm just being nice and being very neighborly like. So the two of them walk into the house and now they're just hanging out in the, I guess it's like a foyer area. And Paul notices George's golf clubs that he kind of left by the door there. And he said, once he got situated, he was going to put them away. And just like doesn't ask or anything. He's just like, oh, look at these clubs. These are amazing. And he just walks over and he picks one up. Hey, mind if I look at this? Well, obviously you already fucking helped yourself. So, and right away he goes into like, he's almost asking as a formality, even though he really wasn't seeking attention. But hey, do you mind if I go outside and test this out? Oh, I promise I'm only going to hit towards the lake. I'm not going to damage anything. So Anna's just fine. Yeah. Do what you got to do. So he goes, grabs a golf ball out of the bag, and he goes walking outside. Now you have Anna and Peter just hanging out there by the door. It's getting more and more awkward. And still, you hear Rolfie out there just barking away. Then we cut to George and Georgie over in the boat, and the two of them are even getting curious, like, what the fuck's this dog's problem? So they both yell out, like, calm down, shut up. And then after a few seconds, dog stops barking. So at least we know the dog was trained properly and listens to orders. Now we come back to Anna and Peter's still like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that I'm such a klutz." And she's just like, "Oh, yeah, whatever." So Paul comes in. He was just like, "Oh, this club's beautiful, Peter. You got to try it out sometime. Oh my God, like there's no way you could ever lose a match using this club." And at this point, Anna's just fucking done. She's like, all right, well, I don't know what game you guys are playing. Haha, see what she did there? Just, all right, go. It's time to go. I don't want you in my house anymore. And this is where Paul goes full on like, I'm sorry, have I offended you? Have I intruded in some way? We were just trying to be nice and suddenly you're being mean to us. Why would you do such a thing? And she's like, I don't care. Just, I got shit to do. Just go. Just go. And they're both politely resisting. Like they're definitely coming off like very confused. Like, why suddenly do you want to throw us out of your house? And all the while, you're just thinking this whole time, like, look, I don't know where this movie's going, but just kick them the fuck out. Like, again, it's kind of slow, but it does progress quickly. Like, not so much that a switch goes off, but I would say in the course of 2 or 3 minutes, it gets really weird where, as a viewer of this, how we always talk about, especially with the tropes episode, like, just get the fuck out of the house. In this case, just get them out of the fucking house. So when she snaps, it's like, finally, she's doing what everyone's been screaming at you to do. So they're, again, just verbally resisting, like, you know, oh, well, we don't understand. Why such this tonal shift? She's like, I don't care. Just go. Just go. So finally, George comes walking up to the door and he's like, what's going on? She's like, just get them the fuck out of my house. And he's like, well, let's see what's going on. And right away, Peter and Paul attached to George and are like, we don't know what's going on. We just came here for some eggs. And like, why would she snap at us like this? Like we it's just a misunderstanding. Like she's getting upset, but we were just being polite and wanted eggs. So George looks at Anna and is like, if that's it, like, what's the problem? So she just fucking, you could tell on the inside, she's completely raging. She storms off to the kitchen, grabs the rest of the eggs, comes in, and she hands them to George and is like, you know what? At this point, I don't give a fuck. Here, you can decide what happens from here. And then she walks off. So George is a little confused now, and Paul comes walking up, again, getting, like, uncomfortably close. And he's just like, okay, well, you know, you have to just give us the eggs. And George is like, look, obviously you pissed her off for some reason, and as a good husband, I'm going to have to honor her wishes, and you guys need to get the fuck out. Now, Paul turns on him like, you know, well, now why do you have to disrespect us? Just give us the eggs and we'll get out of here. And George is like, no, just go. He's like, give us the eggs or we'll break your eggs. So George, with a lot less tolerance than Anna, he snaps and fucking slaps Paul right across the face. Peter walks over, grabs one of these golf clubs, and whack, fucking kneecaps George. He's down. Georgie's standing right there, so he goes and he kind of starts, in a little kid way, comes to the defense of his parents and starts punching at him. And Paul just grabs him, throws him on the ground, be like, you better be good before somebody else gets hurt. Again, but they're saying it in the most calm way. Like they never scream, which kind of makes it more eerie. So Anna comes over, she picks George up and is trying to help him out, and they end up getting a chair and they sit him up in the chair. But already you could see, like, yeah, he's a little fucked up. And one of the cool things about this is right after the slap, you know, it gets a little crazy, but you see Peter go over to grab a club, you see him wind up, you see him swing, and then you see George go down. So they don't actually show the hit, but it's obviously, you know what happens. And I think this goes a little bit with Hanukkah's message of how much we glorify violence. That, in a sense, we saw him hit him, but we actually didn't. The hit was never shown. So now we're having this moment where you kind of get a sense like Paul is trying to de-escalate a little bit, but he's like, look, you could have just gave us the eggs, you know, and he didn't have to go over the line. He didn't have to hit me. My friend was just defending me. He's like, but if you insist on making a big deal about this, you know what? Go ahead, call the cops. And George looks over at Anna like, okay, then we're going to fucking do this. And that's when Anna explains, this one knocked the phone in the sink. The phone is out of commission because it got all wet. So I would say this is the first point where they realize, okay, this day isn't going to go as planned. Now, Paul puts on his little jigsaw robe there, not literally, figuratively, and is like, I would like to play a game. And he pulls out of his pocket a golf ball. He's like, we're going to play a guessing game. What is this? And the family's there trying to register like, really? What the fuck are these guys doing? So they finally give in and they're like, well, it's a golf ball. He's like, correct. Why would I have this in my pocket? And again, they're looking at him all confused. And then Peter chimes in and answers, it's kind of cheating, but Peter chimes in. He's like, because you never hit that ball. Exactly. And why wouldn't I have hit it? Well, something must have gotten in its way. And they both kind of look over at the family and it's registering. The dog's been very quiet. He tested the club, but he still has the one ball he took. Now, because these are nice guys, Paul takes Anna outside to go find the dog. But we wouldn't have a movie called Funny Games unless there was another game to play. So he decides to play a little game of hot and cold. God, I haven't played that in like fucking 40 years. So we cut to outside. Anna's walking around. Hotter, colder, very cold, freezing. All right, you're warming up. Okay, super hot. And it's at this time where we get our first instance of this movie not being your average home invasion movie. The shot is coming from behind Paul's back. You see Anna off in the distance wandering around trying to find out where she has to go, and then Paul turns around and gives a literal wink to the camera, acknowledging, I see you crazy fuckers watching this. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the big standout features of this movie. Multiple fourth wall breaks, reminding us that we are watching a movie. They're aware that they are in a movie, and we are basically accomplices in the shitstorm that is going on. But back to inside the house. We have George still hanging out in the chair. Georgie's just kind of chilling on the floor next to him, and Peter decides, I'm hungry. So George gives Georgie a nod. He goes in to grab a little snack. Meanwhile, Anna she completes the game she's in the middle of when she opens up the door to their vehicle and plop, the limp body of Rolfie comes tumbling out onto the ground. And even though you're watching this from a distance, it's pretty fucked up how realistic it looked. And you don't really get any reaction from this moment. It just cuts over to, you see a boat coming across the lake over to the house. Anna and Paul hear this, so they come from around the back of the house and they look off. And it's pretty quickly established that these are people that know Anna and George. So Paul looks over, hey, you thinking what I'm thinking? Which is kind of fucked up because I'm pretty sure they're not thinking the same thing. So they go walking over, and it's kind of almost a replay from the beginning of the movie when they went to confirm their golf game. So now you have awkward Anna walking up with Paul, and we have Greta and Robert, the couple from, I guess, the other side of the lake. So you stop by to say hi. Greta's, I think, sister was with them. So we're introduced to her, and they are introduced to Paul. And it's as casual of a conversation as you can have. Again, kind of goes to the beginning where Anna plays it off, but depending on how well these two know her, probably pulled away thinking, she seemed a little odd. So they have a little bit of small talk, and Paul was just like, oh yeah, where are you guys from? And they said, oh, we're from over there. Oh, is that the house with the ivy on it? They're like, yep, that's the one. He's like, oh, beautiful house, beautiful house. So they finish with all the small talk and then head off. So we cut back to the living room where now Peter and Paul are kind of making it a little more, I guess, hospitable for any more games that are going to be played for the evening. They're just rearranging some of the furniture so everybody could sit down and relax. And once they get settled, George just has one simple question. Why? And I guess it amounts to a choose your own adventure type of thing. Multiple stories, multiple, I guess, motives are presented. You could take your pick of any one of them. Doesn't really matter. And that's another thing they keep switching up on here. Peter and Paul, I'm assuming isn't their actual names because they're switching around. Like Paul keeps saying like, oh yeah, this is Peter, like, hey Tom, come shake their hand. It's like all in the same breath. So, but yeah, they go by Peter and Paul. So I guess they're trying to pull some kind of like biblical, godly thing or something. But then they also refer to themselves as Tom and Jerry. We also get a Beavis and Butthead because again, this is 1997. So they were kind of a big deal. And I love how intentional that all was. They weren't just randomly picking pop culture names. Because again, you got the whole biblical thing of Peter and Paul. You got the cat and mouse element of the movie, therefore Tom and Jerry. And then Beavis and Butthead also works because throughout the movie, they're basically just two guys doing fucked up things and just being like, oh, that was cool. So, great choices. But then another name that is frequently thrown at Peter is Tubby. So Peter decides, I'm hungry. I'm going to go get something. He's like, oh, okay, Tubby, you do what you got to do. Goes off, grabs something, comes back in, sits down. He's sitting there eating. And this is where Paul decides I look at it as another game. He proposes a bet. So he's like, what time is it? And it's like, it's almost 9 o'clock. Okay, let's place a bet that all three of these will be dead in 12 hours. So by 9 a.m., all three of them will be dead. And then we get our second fourth wall. Paul looks over at the camera. He's just like, what do you think? You think they're going to make it? Which side of this bet are you going to take? And again, these are just like casual little moments. Like they'll be in the middle of a conversation and he'll just look over to the camera and be like, okay, what's your thoughts? And then just break right back into the conversation. And then again, Tubby says, I'm hungry. And he's like, dude, like you just fucking shoved the sausage down your face. Not even in the sexy way. And he's like, well, I haven't eaten since lunch. But I thought that was a funny little excuse because, again, you literally just finished swallowing some food and he's saying he's hungry again. But, whatever. He's just like, you know what? You're a good-looking guy. You got a good-looking face. You know what? This lady here, you'd probably have a chance with her, but you got those jelly rolls. Shut up, man. I don't have jelly rolls. And he's like, no, I see. Like, if you would just stop eating, you would have a shot with this lady. And then they come up with an idea for the next game. And for this game, they're going to include Georgie as well. So they grab Georgie, they put a pillowcase over his head, hold it on, and they're going to play cat in the bag. Basically what we're going to do here, because these are very moral gentlemen, they don't want to corrupt a young child. So the reason for having this pillowcase over his head is that mom can strip down just to show what an in-shape person looks like. And they're going to show that she doesn't have jelly rolls, even though she's, in her mid-30s. So to speed this up a little bit, obviously Anna doesn't want to get naked in front of everyone, but they make it quite clear that they will suffocate Georgie unless she does it. And then they even bring George into the mix to explain to him, like, you need to tell your wife to do this. George eventually says, take your clothes off, honey. And she does. And that's another thing that really stands out with this movie is a lot of the shots, there's either a bunch of wide shots going on, and those tend to be the ones that they linger on longer. But a lot of the more close-up shots, it's always like from the chest up, or in a lot of cases, like from the neck up. It's a lot of really close, like uncomfortably intimate shots of everyone. So Anna does get naked, but you don't see anything. They keep it tight and up top, so you know what she's doing, but they shot it in a way that you never see anything. And it almost makes it creepier. So Paul points out, he's like, see that, Tubby? No jelly rolls. This is what a fit person looks like. Yeah, stop calling me that. And again, because these are nice guys, they said, okay, we just want to prove a point. You can put your clothes back on. She starts putting her clothes back on, gets to a certain point, and then the guys start to walk Georgie out of the room, and mom and dad manage to just reach out or lunge out in enough time to distract them that Georgie gets away. He breaks off, runs out, and he makes his way over to Fred and Eva's house. So he's trying to find out where to hide out in there. He figured maybe they could help. Maybe he could use their phone and get the cops over. But while he's there, he finds out they're all dead. And at one point when he's hiding, because turns out Paul follows him over, and while he's hiding, he sees out in the hallway there's a shotgun. So he gets his way to the shotgun, starts hiding some more, but of course Paul catches up, and there's Georgie cornered there with a shotgun. And again, Paul's a nice guy. He's like, go ahead, cock it. Georgie cocks the gun, and he walks up, he goes, go ahead, pull the trigger. Very textbook scene. Go ahead, do it. And one of two things is going to happen. And yes, of course, the gun's not loaded. So he pulls the trigger, nothing happens. And we go back to the original house where Peter's babysitting Anna and George. Starts to tape up Anna because she was a bad girl. In the meantime, it's like, just either get it over with or just take what you want and get the hell out of here. And this is Peter's fourth wall break where he doesn't directly address the camera, but it is kind of a meta moment where they're like, just go away or just get it over with, whatever you got to do. And he's just like, yeah, but where's the entertainment value in that? Again, addressing that the type of people that would be watching this that are desensitized to violence and whatnot. No, they want to see a long, drawn out, torturous movie. Now we have Paul and Georgie brought back in. Georgie gets thrown over on Anna's lap, and there's Peter and Paul talking. He's like, you believe this kid tried to shoot me with this? And he even looks over at mom and dad like, yeah, your son actually did that. Can you believe that? Like, he was almost impressed. He's like, but I'm not even mad because he did us a favor. And then he pulls out 2 shotgun shells, and he's like, hands one to Peter. He's like, one for Beavis, one for Butthead. So Peter puts his shell into the gun, and then they start playing like some twisted, like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And as they're fucking around with that, and it all comes down to whoever it ended on had to give their age. So it lands on Anna, and the two of them are going back and forth like, okay, you don't want to tell us? Hey, Tubby, how old do you think she is? What, like 37? 37? Let's be nice, say 35. So they're sitting there giggling, and then Paul decides, because, Peter's been doing all the eating in this fucking movie, so Paul decides he's going to go grab a bite to eat. So now we follow him into the kitchen, where he's raiding the fridge and he gets a few things out and he's going to make himself a fucking sandwich. And then as he's doing it, all of a sudden, bang! And you hear like some muffled commotion. And this is another one of those shots where it's a shot of the kitchen and there's Paul. He doesn't flinch, nothing. He just gets all of his ingredients out, sits down, starts making himself a sandwich. And that goes on for like, I don't know, it was probably more like a minute. It felt like at least 2 to 3 minutes. Realistically, yeah, it was probably a minute long shot. And it just held on there. No camera movement or it's just this stagnant shot of him making himself something to eat. And then we cut to a shot of the TV and there's blood all pouring down it. And all you hear, it stays on the TV, but then you hear Paul and Peter going back and forth, and Paul's basically like, dude, why the fuck were you so trigger happy? And he was just like, well, he tried getting away. And it becomes like, all right, well, you know what? We might as well just fucking go. Let's get out of here. Again, no panic, no nothing. It was apparently somebody got shot. And at this point, yeah, let's just fucking go. And the whole time, while it's still focused on the TV, you hear them walk out and they're just basically, all right, goodbye. And then it cuts to the longest shot of this movie. And again, I feel like most other movies, I would have been like, I could have cut that in half. No, this fucking works. It ends up becoming a wide shot of the living room. And you see George's feet. It's like from behind the sofa, so you kind of see George's feet sticking out. But then you notice over in the other corner, there's Georgie's body, bloody and askew. Again, not a close-up, but it's pretty fucking obvious what's happening. And a few feet aside of that is where Anna's sitting, but she's facing the opposite direction. And this shot, I believe it clocked in just over 10 minutes. And it's showing Anna getting up, turning off the TV, but the whole time she has her back to Georgie. She cannot look at him. She turns off the TV, then she goes over to like an end table and tries to break the tape off her wrists. Doesn't quite work, so she hops her way over onto the kitchen. And a scene that's, I could see people having a problem with it. I personally didn't, but again, it's all staying on the living room. You see Anna go off into the kitchen, and then you see George sit up, and he fucking loses it. Like he's crying so hard, like you really think he's going to pass out. He's like gasping for air, and the thing I could see people having a problem with, I think I even heard one person mention it, that it was like overacting. No, this fucking guy nailed it. And then apparently Anna ends up getting herself free and she comes walking in. She grabs him. She's just like, breathe. Like telling him to calm down, but not like, oh, what's the big deal? It's just more of she's trying to get him to get a grip on himself. So nothing happens to him. So she manages to get him to calm down just enough that she picks him up and she manages to get him in a chair. And then it finally cuts off to them going into the kitchen and, all right, well, they're gone. We still have no phone. I don't know if it's dried out, but probably not. She ends up setting George up with the phone like, hey, obviously you can't run. I'm going to go out and try and get help. In the meantime, if you can get this phone to work, call the cops, call whoever you need to do to get them the fuck over here. I'm going to go get help and I'll be back. Hopefully one of us succeeds. And this is another one. It goes on for a while, but it fucking works. So Anna takes off. You see her running down the street and you see a car come by, but she was kind of ducked off and hiding. And it was like, oh, wait, there's people. Maybe I should try and get help. But she missed the car. And then you see another one eventually coming down. But then you get back to George trying to get the phone working. And I think the battery ended up dying. Like he sort of connected, but it was a fucked up connection. And I'm a little hazy what happened. It was part of it. The phone wasn't completely working, but I think there were battery issues and all this. So it seems like he never got a clear call out. But then he's just sitting down. And I think at this point he got back to like the living room, fucking scooted his way over. But either way, he's hanging out. You hear the door open. He's just like, oh, you're back. And then all of a sudden, bop, 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 bop. In comes rolling a fucking golf ball. And there's Paul, Peter, and Anna. And when Anna took off, she grabbed a knife because at this point, yeah, maybe they better be cautious. So they come back, they had her all fucking tied up again, threw her on the sofa. And again, Paul ain't even mad. He's just like, hey, look at this. And she brought a new weapon into this whole situation. He's like, so thank you for that. Again, very gracious kids. So he said, thank you for bringing this element in. And this will... I don't think he looked at the camera this time, but he was like, this is something that will give the audience something spectacular to think about. But without further ado, let's get on to our next game. And this one we're going to call The Loving Wife, where you, Miss Anna, get to choose who dies first, and now with which weapon. Is it going to be a quick death from the shotgun, or is it going to be a nice drawn out but wonderful looking hack job with the knife? And at this point, she's basically catatonic. She's you could see in her eyes, she's like fucking dead inside. She ain't answering. She's just sitting there like kind of shaking and I guess trying to fight back tears, maybe a little bit. But again, they make it quite clear, we're not asking you to play. Like, you're totally playing this shit. And she's not responding. So again, this whole time the camera's focused on Anna, but then you hear they start doing something to George. She's like, all right, I'll fucking play. So the way they end up playing this is you have to recite a prayer. And if you do it perfectly, you get to choose who dies next and in what way. She's like, well, I don't know any fucking prayers. I got no fucking dukes. He's like, really? You don't know one prayer? Like, hey, Peter, what's a prayer she can recite? And he barks off like this just 2-line, very simplistic thing. He's just like, all right, that's kind of pathetically short and all, but all right, go ahead, do that. So Anna starts to say it, and he goes, no. Like, don't just mundanely, is that a real word? Probably. Recite it. Like, you're praying. Get on your knees and pray properly. So she eventually gets on her knees, and she starts sobbing, and she recites the lines. Beautiful. Great job. Perfect. We love it. But that was just a warm-up. Let's go for the Olympic gold. Now you have to recite that same poem backwards. And if you do it without any mistakes, you win this round. And there was just this moment of hesitation between Peter and Paul that Anna manages to lunge over, grab the fucking shotgun off the coffee table, and blow Peter through the fucking wall. It's just this epic moment that she managed to muster up just enough energy to finally get the upper hand. And Paul looks over, he takes a minute to process what the fuck just happened, and it's the first time he really loses his temper. But he doesn't lash out at her. He starts tearing up the fucking living room, the sofa and everything, of where's the fucking remote control? Which is kind of an odd request in such a moment like that. But he's scrambling around, where's this goddamn remote? And he finds it, and he picks it up, he hits a button, and the movie rewinds about a minute to moments before Anna grabs that shotgun, pauses again, hits play. We're watching those last few seconds. Anna lunges for the gun, but this time Paul beats her to it. And at this point, even Peter's like, all right, let's just get this over with. Let's just finish this up. And Paul says, but we're not even at feature length yet, which is kind of a flaw, because at this point, it's over 90 minutes into the movie. And I believe the official cutoff between a short and a feature length is like 70 minutes. But, we're splitting hairs here. So yeah, he's like, we're not even at feature length yet. And then he looks at the camera again and says, how about you? You want a real ending with plausible plot development, right? And in my opinion, this is the most brilliant fourth wall break of the whole movie. Because this is the point where you realize, no matter how much screaming you do at the screen, oh, you should have done this, you should do this, none of it would have fucking mattered. Like, even in the beginning, when everyone's thinking, just get him out of the house, just throw him out, fuck the egg, just give him the whole carton of eggs, get him the fuck out of the house. Like, none of that mattered. It's not even that the family didn't have any control over the situation. We didn't have control over it. And watching this movie as we're, at the very best, witnesses to this whole thing, at the very worst, we're accomplices to this, we just have to be there and suck it up. As viewers, as horror fans, we're looking for this to play out in the most textbook manner. And Hanukkah, through Paul, is reminding us that, fuck you, real tragedies happen, you don't always get the happy ending. You're not always going to get that hero shot. So, Paul looks over at Anna, gives her the old, how dare you? And then calmly walks over to George, who's still lying on the floor. Bam! They don't show it. You just see him walk over, he's standing over him, he points down, and as you hear the blast, it cuts to Paul, Peter, and Anna in rain jackets, walking across the yard, out to the boat. So they're sailing off across the lake. You have Anna all tied up in the one corner of the boat, and then you got the other two just hanging out, and, just basic shit, talking about, like, quantum physics and black holes and the logistics behind matter and antimatter, and all this, what anyone would talk about after a little brief killing spree. And then you see Anna, she finds the knife that she gave Georgie in the beginning of the movie. It got knocked over. So she picks it up, starts trying to cut the tape to free her hands once again. And again, these guys look over and they're like, oh wow, look at that. That's cute. She's got a little fighting spirit in her. So they grab the knife, throw it overboard. They're like, hey, bring her over here. She's apparently lonely. So now the three of them are sitting there, and you got Peter and Paul talking a little bit again, and then all of a sudden, hey, what time is it? It's like, it's a little after 8. And Paul just casually, all right, well, see you, man. And just pushes her overboard, lets her drown. No reaction or anything. Well, nah, Peter reacts, and he's just like, what are you doing? We have almost an hour left. And Paul's just like, I'm hungry. And as they sail off, they break off into another conversation, talking about the difference between fiction and reality, and how if you're watching something fictional, such as a movie, and you get an emotion from it, you have some kind of experience with it, in a sense, that's real to you. So he's basically kind of admitting that, yeah, we're fictional characters in this made-up universe, but yet, in our eyes, we're real. So again, going with the whole purpose, the message of this movie, it was a nice little tag at the end. But anyhow, they just continue sailing off. And then they pull up to a house, the other end of the lake, some ivy. They go walking up to the door, and there's Greta again. Oh, sorry, ma'am. I hope I didn't disturb you. I hope I didn't wake you. Yeah, Anna sent us over. She wanted to know if she could borrow some eggs. And then Paul turns around to face the camera with a little smirk. Credits. Holy shit, dude. Yeah, I love so much about this fucking movie. And again, if you look at this as Haneke trying to make a statement about basically the negatives of too much violence being sensationalized, he fucking nailed it, dude. And like I said, just the way this was shot, it just, there's like, other than like the blood on the TV or maybe some smears on their body, like this wasn't a gory movie, but the violence was fucking effective. And the whole thing, the way they framed the shots, like I said, a lot of it was like from the chest up, from the neck up, and it just brought that extra level of dread to the whole thing. And then again, going to, like, you just had these stagnant shots, no real action, no real movement, and it just lingered on certain frames. Again, very effective. I mean, he made you fill in the gaps, and it just gave the whole thing a much harder impact. I think the acting in this was fucking great, but to be fair, I could see, I mean, who knows, this might be too over the line for a lot of people, but just as a general, like, viewing experience, I could see, because again, this is like a major issue for me, the whole just get the fuck out of the house. Like, there were so many opportunities, at least in the beginning, where they could have just shut that shit down and be done with it. But, like we explained, none of that would have mattered anyway. It wasn't our movie to dictate. So now for the big reveal that you've all been waiting for, what did I think of this movie? Out of 10, I'm going to give this an 8.5. The movie as a whole just worked for me. And yes, even made me uncomfortable. But I think I've sucked this off for way too long. So let's move on to part 2 of this episode. Funny Games, 2007. Now, getting right into it, this movie abruptly opens into an overhead shot of a family consisting of the mother Anna, the father George, and their son Georgie, as they drive down this wooded, windy road, heading towards their lake house. It does kind of establish early on, they don't flat out say it, but you could tell they're definitely, at the bare minimum, upper middle class, but they seem like a very well-off family. So there's your long-winded, overproduced way of saying this is a carbon copy of the original movie. Apparently what happened was when Haneke went to make the original movie, he wanted it to be shot and produced in America. Turns out that wasn't in the budget. So he ended up making his movie, but in Austria, where he's from. But one thing that kind of bothered him was he felt, and I get how it could come off kind of cringy and all, but he had this message he wanted to throw out there through this movie. And he felt that it not being in English, that held back a lot of potential viewers. And I get that. Much like Martyrs. I held off on that for way longer than I should have, just because it was a foreign subtitled movie. I heard so many great things about it, but the whole hang up that I didn't want to read a movie is why from the time I heard about it till when I actually watched it was probably 4 or 5 years. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people like that. I mean, I know a handful of people that would rather not watch a movie just because it's subtitled. And I'm not faulting that. Like I said, I get it. So I guess when this had at least enough success, 10 years later, he decided, I have the money now, I'm doing the American version of this. And I mean, I guess he saved a little bit on the budget because it's the exact same script. I'd say 99.9% of the words that are spoken in this movie are the original movie. Now, when I rewatched the original movie, I ended up going back to back with the two of them, and it was almost uncomfortable how similar, what, like, I didn't know this part going into it. But when I turned the movie on, same opening shot, like same scenery and everything. The fucking dialogue, exact same. When it shoots to the inside shot of the car, same borderline jump scare title card. With the same exact fucking music. And had I not been looking at the screen and seeing Tim Roth and Naomi Watts, I was going to second guess, like, wait, did I click on the right one or am I just watching the original again? But that's the thing. Every aspect of this movie is, we're not talking Vince Vaughn jerking off through a fucking peephole shot for shot remake. Like, this is as close, like I said, it's a fucking clone of the original movie. He shot at the same house, the framing, I mean, everybody's movement. And to me, it's more impressive that this was 10 years later. Like, I could see if certain shots, the framing was a little off, or if this changed or that changed. Like I said, people's marks in the movie, like everyone's movement, like every aspect of it. I could see after a decade, things are going to be slightly no, he fucking nailed this, man. Like, it blew me away of how identical it was. So this is one of those rare cases where if you have a foreign movie and then somebody does the American remake, and it feels like most of the times people will say, nah, man, you got to go with the original because there are certain elements missing from the Americanized version. It's just not the same. Again, I've said this about Martyrs. I don't hate the remake, but there were so many things that made that movie effective that just got filtered out in the American version. But this, I could see that a little bit, like just a hair. But otherwise, again, carbon fucking copy. So if somebody was interested in seeing this, but does have that hang up of, I don't want to read subtitles for the whole movie, this is a very rare case where you could sit and watch the American version and you're going to get the same experience. But going back to watching the two of these back to back, when I realized that it was a cut and paste, now I'm on a mission. I'm looking to find the differences. And for the most part, it was pretty fucking difficult because, like I said, for me, the most impressive part was the framing of every shot. It's almost as if when he made the original movie, he knew he was going to do this. And he put like markers everywhere in that fucking house to make sure everybody was in the same spot. The cameras were in the same exact spot. Like, it's just an amazing feat. But so really going with a fine-tooth comb, I found, and this is including the cast, maybe a half dozen differences. Like going back to the scene where they're playing hot and cold with the dog, like the reveal of the dog was from a different angle. dumb little things like that. Now, whether or not that was intentional, I don't know. Or maybe there was, I can't imagine what, but maybe there was some logistical reason why they couldn't nail that exact same framing. But again, we're talking splitting hairs to find differences between them. I think one line might have been slightly tweaked as well. Like I said, the script was 99.999% the same fucking thing. Even the runtime of the two movies are within like 2 minutes. So there may have been slight pacing differences as far as the delivery of the lines. So, yeah, if you want to watch this movie but you don't want to read it, by all means, check out the '07 version. And that's really it. I mean, if you want, I can follow through and just walk through the fucking movie again, but I'm pretty sure at this point you don't want to hear. So, jump to the rating. I'm going to go with an 8, and that's only because I found the original a hair more effective, because watching the '07 version, there's still that part of my mind, even though I'm drawn into the characters, I'm drawn into everything that's going on, I know I'm watching Tim Roth and Naomi Watts. As opposed to the original movie, I have no fucking clue who any of these people were. So just for that alone, I'm going to take it down a 0.5 point, but otherwise, it's just as good of a movie. Maybe the crying scene, Roth didn't quite sell it as well as the original. Again, very subtle differences. So I think watching this one will probably, if the original is going to fuck you up, this will probably do it for you as well. So there you go. Boom. Fastest movie review ever. And thank you to Michael Haneke for making that happen. So let's wrap this up. Funny Games, 1997, 2007. I recommend watching both of them. If you're fine with subtitles, I would definitely go for the 97 version. If that's not your thing, by all means, check out the '07 remake. You know me, I'm a fan of disturbing movies, and I get why this is on some people's lists. So it appealed to me. Knowing what Haneke was going for, I think that made it so much cooler. Watch either, watch both, I don't care. Just take it in one way or another. So thank you to everyone who's stuck around for this whole thing. Again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe at our website, on YouTube, whatever way you consume this. If it's on YouTube, throw us a comment with suggestions of things you want to hear about. If it's through the website or on any of the podcatchers, there's a link there, says text the nerds. No, you're not giving us your fucking phone number, but it's, I guess, just their way of saying you could message us through the website without having to deal with emails. But yes, let us know what you want to hear about. Again, give us a rating, give us a review. Encourage everyone you know to do the same. Preferably listening to us too. That would be pretty fucking sweet. And as always, be well, be safe, stay spooky, keep talking some damn horror. Doodles. Broadcast completed.
You've been listening to What an Excellent Day for a Podcast. Be sure to come on down to excellentdayforapodcast.com, where you'll find our entire catalog. And for your convenience, every episode contains a link where you can text the nerds. Want to throw some praise? Some critique? Perhaps you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like to see us tackle. But while you think about that, you can also check out the connections to all of our socials, including our YouTube channel. Give all them a visit. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with everybody you know. And for those feeling a little extra generous, there's also a button where you can support the show in other ways. Every bit of support helps. Well, that's it for this episode. And remember, stay creepy and keep talking some damn horror.